Welcome to the CouchScouts Podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Well, I am not your host, Matt Cooper, as you might realize. Cooper is currently not out of town, but he's working really hard with some college students. His job has got him tied up. I'm your host, Matt Jackson. With me, as always, I have my fellow co-host, Matthew Rupert. Rupert, man, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Been busy as could be. Son just started kindergarten, and so there's been a little bit of adjustment period there. So wife's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, but, definitely understand that. I don't understand the kids starting back yet because thankfully my daughter is still only 3, so she hasn't started the school. But I was talking to one of my coworkers today, and he was like, "Man, I had to get up at like 6 o'clock today to get my daughter ready for school." I was like, "I do not look forward to those days."
Yeah, it's the bus runs 6:30, so it's like I have to get up an hour earlier than I used to.
That's crazy. Well, we will try to bring the energy tonight to try and keep you awake. But
let's go.
Tonight we got a special episode for you guys because it comes from our listeners. We put a question out in our Discord earlier yesterday morning, asking our listeners and our Discord members to kind of give us some questions, some topics that you'd like to hear us talk about. So what we're going to be doing tonight is doing a listener episode of all the questions that some of our Discord members put into our channel. So I'm super excited about that. We got some really good questions to talk about. But before we begin, I'd like to take a break and just mention our website that we have coming out. Rupert, we got a website coming out, man, and we are launching September 5th. It's going to have all sorts of stuff. It's going to be a subscription-based system where you can subscribe to get things like an extra podcast. You can get our rookie guide that we did a couple months ago. That'll be included in the subscription price. There'll be a film room that we're going to have. They'll have all sorts of film from NFL players to Devy players. It's going to be awesome. You're not going to want to miss that. They'll have a section where you can come on and book a consultation and maybe even ask us some questions about your fantasy roster. So you guys get ready for that. We're super excited for that launch coming out September 5th. Keep an eye out for that. It's going to be a good time. It's also got one thing that I want to mention. It's got a shop. I'm not wearing my shirt right now. I neglected Rupert to put it on, but it is. We've got all sorts of material, of gear, of stuff that we're going to have on the shop, from hats to coffee cups to shirts to sweatshirts. And being a member of our website is going to get you a discount to that. And hey, I don't know about you, Rupert, but I like discounts. So we're super excited about that. But that's enough shop talk. That's enough website talk. I figure let's go ahead and get right into our show questions. The first one that I got was from a fellow Matt, believe it or not. Rupert, it's another Matt in our Discord. He asked, should I capitalize now and sell high on CJ Stroud while the hype is so high? What do you think about that question? Are you selling high on the hype on CJ Stroud? Are you holding him? What are you doing with him right now?
So I have a couple shares, and I'm holding on to him. I just think he's just too elite of a ball placement specialist to where he's going to be scoring 30-plus touchdowns year in, year out for the foreseeable future. He's not a running quarterback where you're going to be particularly more worried about injury. So I feel like he's just such a long-term asset, and he's going to be such an elite producer that I'm just going to hold on to him. And the fact that he has such a good surrounding talent with young players and some veterans, as well as a really good offensive coordinator, even though he may be leaving for a head coaching job here before too long, I'm just going to hold.
That's what I was going to mention. I mean, he's surrounded by a supporting cast in Tank Dell, Nico Collins. They just recently acquired Mixon. I mean, he's got plenty of people to throw the ball to. He's got great GM. He's got a great coaching staff. I mean, as high as we're seeing him go right now, I mean, according to Dynasty Data Lab, he's going as QB3 right now. I mean, yes, that's an elite asset, but I still don't think we've seen CJ Stroud's ceiling. I mean, somebody that we all loved coming into the NFL, he came out and proved it, which for Ohio State quarterbacks doesn't happen a whole lot. So I'm really excited about that. But I mean, he came out and proved it. He he did really well. The sky's the limit for this guy. And for somebody that you can have on your roster for the next 15, 20 years, I mean, you think about it. I mean, what can't this guy do? So no, I'm holding him, and I'm locking up that roster spot for the foreseeable future. Moving on, our next question, and this might cause some debate between some of our people, but the next question we got was: has Malik Neighbors passed Marvin Harrison Jr. on your rankings? All the hype surrounding Malik Neighbors right now. I mean, all the videos that we see. He's seemingly going off in training camp and the games all the times, and his hype is getting through the roof right now. Are you still taking Marvin Harrison Jr. above him, or are you taking Malik Neighbors right now?
Absolutely, I'm taking Marvin Harrison over him. Simple fact: he's tied with Kyler Murray instead of Daniel Jones. He's just going to have such a better quarterback throwing to him, even though they're both extremely talented. We see them when we grade them out very, very close. Even though you're seeing much more hype on Twitter for Neighbors, I feel like there's still a ton of good stuff that you're seeing out of Marvin Harrison. And it's just not enough for me to sway from my film analysis and the superior landing spot.
No, I 100% agree. This question also came from Matt in our Discord. So yeah, Peter, I see your comment. Yeah, Matt has to be probably the most popular name in fantasy football. The amount of Matts we have on the show and in our Discord. But yeah, I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. 10 times out of 10. Malik Neighbors is a fantastic prospect, and I'm not going to take anything away from Malik Neighbors, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a different beast. I mean, his body control, his speed, his hands. I mean, there is nothing that Marvin Harrison Jr. can't do at an elite level. And like you said, he's tied to a better quarterback long term. He's tied to a better team long term. Well, yes, I know that Arizona's not, one of the best teams out there. They're definitely better than the crap show that is the general manager and staff of the New York Giants. So give me Marvin Harrison Jr. 10 times out of 10 there.
Yeah, agreed. Next question is, which second-year player that struggled in their rookie season last year has the best chance to bounce back this year? Who do you got?
So I think struggled is such a harsh word when I'm about to list this guy, right? Because he didn't really struggle. It was simple. We were talking about this all show. It was an opportunity issue and it was a scheme issue. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, you look at him, and he was the wide receiver 3 on that team, right? So he didn't go out and put all world numbers. And to be fair, he kind of struggled in the beginning of the season. He didn't come on until later in the season, right? So he didn't really do, come out and blow us all away like we all thought he was going to potentially. But look, Jackson Smith-Njigba is still an elite prospect. He's going to eventually take over as potentially, at least the number 2 option on that team. That team ran the ball a lot last year. So I think a lot of factors were working against Jackson Smith-Njigba to not come in and be this all-world prospect that we thought he was going to be. But look, if I could go out and buy cheap shares of JSN right now, I'm doing that everywhere because his price has fallen a little bit from what it was in the rookie draft. And I still think he's one of the better elite prospects that we've scouted in the last few years. What about you?
I'm excited to see him in the new scheme that they got. The player I went with, and I agree that this one was a pretty hard question because I feel like the draft class last year was
really good.
Really good. There was not a lot of players that really disappointed last year. But the one I went with is Will Levis. I'm not totally convinced on the talent, but I am convinced at how much better his situation is coming in this year.
Yeah.
He's got DeAndre Hopkins that came back. They added Calvin Ridley. And, they're running a couple of different guys at wide receiver 3 that are more than capable there. They got 2 really good running backs. And most importantly, in my opinion, they went out and got a head coach that is known to develop and, work his scheme around his quarterback and really help develop and bring them along. So if he doesn't do it this year, then there's absolutely no excuse. Like he's, going to be toast. His value is going to tank, but I think he has a really good opportunity just based on his supporting cast to bounce back.
Yeah, for sure. And he was a guy that I think we talked about on a few shows ago about guys with the most to gain, right? I mean, he's QB 24 right now. in Dynasty ADP. I mean, you look at it. I mean, how much more does this guy have to lose? I mean, he has the world. He has everything to gain. And as you said already, I mean, you look at their supporting cast that they have is way better than what it was last year. Yeah. So yeah, give me Will Levis all day. I think that's a great take. Not a lot of guys to really talk about because, as you said, the entire class really looked good. But yeah, Will Levis, I like that call out a lot.
Yeah, this next question I really love the ponder on. It's a really good one, especially for the teams that I have that are contending. I'm like, I could add another running back. So the question is, if you're a contending team, which running back would you sell 2025 first for?
Would you sell or would you sell a 2025 first? I misunderstood the question for a second. No, yeah. I'll look at it, and a guy to me that doesn't get a lot of hype and is kind of, I wouldn't say looked down on in the community, but is not regarded as well as I think he should be, is Kansas City's Isaiah Pacheco. Right now, he's currently going. I mean, he finished last season as a back end RB1. I mean, he's getting drafted as a back end RB1 right now. I think for him, I mean, he's consistently proven it over the last 2 years. He's a hard-nosed running back. He'll go out and get you yardage. He puts up really good point totals, per game. And they haven't done a whole lot to really address that position outside of him. I mean, he is pretty much by himself in that running backfield. And he's somebody that, like I said, has looked down a lot, but I think just goes out and proves it every single game. And I mean, you could probably get him for a lot cheaper than a first, but this is the experiment, right? Is who would you feel comfortable paying a first? And for me, that's Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, that's a good call out. And I really like that they didn't really add much to the running back room to give him a lot of competition. So it seems like, in my eyes, this offense is vastly improved this year than what it was last year. So I feel like it's going to have a lot more scoring opportunities this year, which is really good. So if it's a back end first, I really like that call out. One I went with, and I don't even know if you could get this done, but I went with Saquon Barkley. I just feel like the situation's so much better than anything he ever dealt with the Giants. He's got the best O-line he's ever had. I just think he's going to blow up this year, even though it may be a shorter lifespan, being that he's a little bit older running back now. But if I can sell it first and, cash in on the hype of this running back class for 2025 and, manage to get Saquon Barkley back for a contending team, if I can secure a championship, I'm doing that every time.
I think you could probably get that done just because a lot of people are kind of off on Saquon Barkley. They didn't like that landing spot a lot. They're like, okay, Jalen Hurts, and rightfully so, Jalen Hurts is going to vulture some touchdowns for him on the goal line, right? If he doesn't go out and look like who he was in his rookie season, he's had a couple of down years. Like, is he worthy of that first? And I think he absolutely is, right? I mean, he's running behind the best offensive line, not to be biased or anything, but Eagles have one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. He's on a team where you've got to watch out for A.J. Brown. You got to watch out for Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. I mean, there's so many guys there. I mean, I think that's a great call out. One that I just found recently that I want to bring up. I was looking at the Dynasty Data Labs ADP, and I want to get your take on this. Alvin Kamara currently going as the RB 2021 right now. Last season, he finished just under 700 yards rushing. He had almost 500 yards receiving. So all-purpose yards, he was over 1,000 by a good bit, but he's currently getting drafted because of age, right? Because of the team. He's getting drafted way down there. But are you comfortable giving up a first for somebody like that? Because I feel like I might be, right? If I'm a contending team and can win a championship, that's a guy that you could target that could easily help you win that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I like it too. If I'm more on the edge, where it could be like a mid first, I probably wouldn't, just due to age, because if he does fall off this year, then, his value is toast. You're not going to be able to get any return on that investment. But I haven't really seen any drop off with Kamara. He doesn't have a ton of miles on him. He was in that timeshare with Mark Ingram for years. Yeah. And even though he's produced a lot in fantasy, it hasn't been like 300 carry seasons, right? So I feel like he's a guy similar to Christian McCaffrey, where they can have a little bit longer shelf life than most running backs. And he's also really good out wide and running routes and, getting you 50, 70 receptions every year.
For sure. No, just another one I wanted to bring up, but we're going to go ahead and take a break. And I wanted to hit our Discord where we're getting all of these questions from. If you guys are not a part of the Discord, it is a great place to be right now. I mean, that community is hopping seemingly every day. People asking questions about should I accept this trade? Who should I draft at this position? What are your thoughts about this trade offer that I just got? I mean, just so many questions and just guys hanging out and having a good time. I think recently we were all sharing pictures of our barbecue that we were doing. So, I mean, it's anything from football to just hanging out, enjoying life together. So if you guys aren't in that, we're going to link the Discord in our show description. Make sure you get in there, especially with the football season coming up. You're not going to want to miss everything going on there. Also, if you guys are interested in where we're getting all this film that we scout and break down, outside of our film room, we like to use the Nerds Herds film room. If you guys don't know what that is, you can use code COOP for a little discount on that. You can go and watch all sorts of film from the incoming rookies that are coming in this next season. So it's a great place to just get in and watch film without having to watch an entire game. It's got every single snap that these guys play, and you're spending 6 or 7 minutes as opposed to 45 watching a whole game cutout. So make sure you guys get in on that. But we're going to go ahead and jump right back in, and we've got a little bit of a roster or a league construction question. Recently, we did a information or a podcast on just how to set up a dynasty league. And I think this is where this question is coming from. But Rupert, I want to throw it to you. What are your ideal bench sizes and taxi squad sizes in a 12-team league? And just to give a setup for the league, this is a start 9. You got 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex, and 1 super flex. So in a 12-team league, what is your ideal bench size and taxi squad size?
I really like 4 for the taxi squad. Gives you a little more flexibility. I've been in some leagues where they only have 2 or 3. It never feels like enough. And then there's some others with 5 and 6. I feel like that's just too much, especially with the deep bench. So I like to go with a deep bench of 15 and then 4 in the taxi squad. Most of the leagues, like when I first started out in Dynasty, the benches are much more shallow, but then they just slowly expand over time. And most of my leagues have kind of settled on 15.
See, I find that interesting because most of the leagues that I play in, I think we're looking at about 25 for bench right now, which, I mean, you're looking at that and you're exhausting every last player on an NFL roster when you're getting to 25 and 30. But I like that, right? Because it makes you draft smart and it makes you utilize trades. I'm personally not a big waiver wire guy. I know I should be. That's my downfall. But I like once I draft a team, I'm going to trade for the guys I need, and I'm just going to play the guys I have, and it seems to work out great for me. So between 20 and 25 is ideally why I like to have benches, and I kind of land on 5 for taxi squad. Just kind of for the reasons that you said, right? I mean, when you got some of these leagues that are 2 and 3 taxi squads, you don't have a lot of space to put all of these guys that you're drafting in rookie drafts year in and year out. So I like to have at least 4 or 5, so that I have places to put them and watch them develop for a little bit. Moving on, we're going to get into some quarterback discussion with some of these next questions. So strap in for some quarterback talk. But what do you think about this J.J. McCarthy injury? We just saw him get injured this offseason. He's not going to play this coming season. He's out for the year. How do you think this affects his long-term outlook? Do you think that the Vikings are going to bring in a new quarterback if Sam Darnold struggles like he normally does? Is he somebody that you're looking to maybe even buy cheaply if you can this offseason? Or do you think that he's that this potentially might not be good for him and they might bring in somebody else?
Long-term, I don't see this affecting his stock at all. What I see it is an opportunity for me to go buy some J.J. McCarthy stock. If, a contending team, that was at the back end of the first round, ended up drafting him just due to value. They don't really need him this year. They may need one more piece to contend this year. And if I'm rebuilding or, even kind of middle of the road, I won't be looking to see if I'm able to snag some shares, give him, some win now pieces and get a long-term quarterback for me. I thought he's looked pretty good so far this offseason, so I'm not worried about him long term.
Did you see that Tom Brady video that's circulating around the internet? I think he was interviewing with Stephen A. Smith, and he said something to the effect of, these guys don't develop anymore, right? One of the worst things that can happen is you have to play a rookie quarterback, and these guys don't have time to develop and to learn the system and to learn all the nuances of the position at the next level. I think I'm going to use that point to say this. I think this does nothing but help J.J. McCarthy, right? He already needed to develop some. He was not used as a huge thrower of the football in Michigan, right? He was kind of facilitating handoffs to some of the best running backs in the country, right? So, I mean, you look at it and he's going to now get some time to develop, right? That team already is potentially going to have a few weeks that it doesn't have Jordan Addison because of Jordan Addison's injury, right? They've had some injuries throughout the season. So were they really going to make all that noise this season anyway, right? So I think getting a quarterback that you could let sit and just let Sam Darnold play for a little bit while J.J. McCarthy develops is going to do nothing but help him, right? So, yeah, I'm right with you. If I can go out and acquire shares of J.J. McCarthy, I'm doing that whenever I can.
Love it. Next quarterback question we got is around Jalen Hurts. His dynasty value is incredibly high right now. Is this a time that you would look to sell any shares that you have and kind of capitalize on his value skyrocketing?
I talked about this a couple weeks ago on our podcast, but and this feels so weird to say as an Eagles fan, right? But when you look at Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's currently getting drafted right around QB4, a top 5 startup pick, right? He's getting drafted at his ceiling, and I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts isn't deserving of getting drafted to his ceiling because he's made vast improvements his entire career. He's a great leader. He's going to get the rushing yards. I mean, he made his money on the tush push. I mean, those 1-yard touchdown runs. So I mean, he was paying dividends if you drafted him with that because he was getting fantasy points. But I'm not completely sold on this team yet, and maybe I'm being a little bit of a pessimist, right? But I don't quite think we know what this team is going to look like without Jalen Hurts right now. All the reports you hear coming out of camp, I mean, is this offense looks stellar. Jalen Hurts is really taking a command of the team, and everybody just looks really, really great. I'm trying to decipher, is that just preseason talk or is that really what's happening? But QB4 is darn near the ceiling for Jalen Hurts. So if I can trade back and get somebody, I'm looking at later guys like Joe Burrow or trade back and get like Justin Herbert plus, right? Like why wouldn't I do that, right? Somebody that maybe has a little can put up some of the same points, but you're getting something on top of that. I think I'd feel much more comfortable doing.
I 100% agree. I don't have any shares of them, but if I did, that's exactly who I'd be targeting. I'd be targeting Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and seeing what else I could get on top. I think they're going to be more consistent. I don't think the tush push is going to stay around forever. It's kind of, in my eyes, it's going to be like the Wildcat.
Yeah. Eventually somebody's going to figure it out, and that's where his fantasy points are coming from.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think people appreciate what the loss of Jason Kelce is going to do to them. I've seen it firsthand when the Panthers lost Ryan Khalil, how that just left our line in complete shambles. Same thing, Nick Mangold with the Jets after he left, their line, went to crap. So a center's probably the most important position on the line. Just, kind of keeping command, making sure communication's there. So I really think that's going to affect the offense this season. And so I would look to get a guy that I know is going to, throw for 30 touchdowns.
Yeah, for sure.
And the last question we got wrapping up, multi-part question. What are your thoughts on the remaining quarterback battles that we got in the NFL? And first being Drake May and Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, so Drake May, Jacoby Brissett. This is another one of those situations where I think Drake May could benefit for sitting for a year. Like I see what he's doing in preseason, and he looks good in preseason, right? Like he's made some improvements and he's taken some steps forward. So I can see this team being like, you know what, let's go out and start Drake May. I think that's a bad idea because as we talked about in our quarterback breakdowns way back when, right? He has all the upside of a Josh Allen, right? With some of the problems that Josh Allen had coming out too, yeah. Right? So, I mean, he could really benefit from sitting a year and developing. I don't think you need to rush these guys. I mean, you look and see what happened. I mean, I think about your team, right? Bryce Young, when they went in and threw Bryce Young to the Wolves week 1 last year. I mean, he got punished, right, for a season. And
Big
he could
time.
come in and look better this year. But, I mean, why are we doing the same thing to these rookie quarterbacks? I think Drake May could benefit from sitting behind a starting quarterback who could go out there and manage some games for you, right? I mean, the Patriots aren't going to compete for a title right now. So what are we rushing things for?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement there. I think they have a good chance to start him, but if it was me running the team, I would, let Jacoby Brissett do his thing, get us to, a 7-10 season or whatever it may be, and just let Drake May develop this year and get rid of any bad habits he may have, and just hit the ground running next year would be my play. But I'm starting to lean towards I think they're going to end up playing May this year.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I think is going to happen too. I hope they don't, but I mean, it's looking more and more like it. What are you taking about this Wilson Fields thing that's going on right now? I mean, which guy's going to be the starting quarterback there? Your guess is beyond me, but which one are you taking?
If I had to pull out a crystal ball, what I think is going to happen is Russell Wilson's going to start the season, and then about halfway through the season, they're going to end up switching to Fields just to see what they have there. So that's where I'm leaning. I'm hoping that Russell Wilson just, takes that job and runs and returns to his old self.
I'm
being a Russell Wilson fan, but
can I take option 3? I mean, neither one of these guys have looked great in the preseason. What's option 3? I feel so sick to my stomach for Steelers fans, but then I remember that they haven't had a losing season in like 20 years. So maybe they're due one now. I don't know.
Love it. And the last one we got is Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham.
For me, I know I just preach don't start the rookie quarterback, but is Bo Nix really a rookie quarterback? I mean, this dude has all the experience of a 3, 4, 5-year starter in the NFL because, I mean, he played for 20 years in college, right? I mean, he's looked good in the offseason. I mean, he's gone out and been one of the better looking rookie quarterbacks this offseason. I mean, for me, if I was that team, I would hand the reins over to Bo Nix. The simple fact of the matter is, like, I know what I have in Jarrett Stidham. Like, I've watched Jarrett Stidham play before, right? And he's just a guy, right? And maybe Bo Nix is just a guy. I don't know. We weren't crazy about him in the offseason, but he looks good right now. So if I were the Broncos GM right now, I would throw in Bo Nix and see what I have in him.
Yeah, I agree. Being the fact that he's been starting for 5 years in college, he's pretty much ready. Like, for comparison, Drake May was a starter for 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, Jacoby Brissett was a starter for many years before kind of becoming a perennial backup. Not the case with Jarrett Stidham. He's played a games here and there, but he's not a guy where you can send him out and start for the season. So in my eyes there, I'm going with Bo Nix, being the fact that he's an old rookie and has tons of experience already.
For sure. Well, that about does us for tonight. I want to thank our Discord members for all those questions. There were several that we had that were coming in late today that we didn't get a chance to get to, but maybe we'll have to do another listener episode here soon.
Yeah, this was fun.
And get to those. I enjoyed it, man. It was fun. But why don't you go ahead and tell the people where they can find you on Twitter/X?
Yeah. Give me a follow at Matthew Rupert FF.
Awesome. And you guys can follow me on Twitter at DevyMatt. If you guys are wanting to find the show on Twitter, you can find us at CouchScouts, all one word. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. We are at CouchScouts on YouTube as well. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe to that channel. It helps us out. Make sure you leave a comment and a 5-star review on all the social media, all the podcast platforms you can find. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just everywhere. So leave a 5-star review. It's how people find us. But we enjoyed it, man. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with us and talking shop. But until next time, we will see you guys